Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below. Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga. And unfortunately, I have to give a bit of an update on what I was trying to do that I mentioned in the last video, where I was trying to do both the Adventures manga and the original anime. Unfortunately, I bit off more than I could chew, which is okay. I had to kind of understand the ultimate limitations, especially when it comes to my computer that I'm working off of. And so I discussed it with the Patreon who requested the manga and said I can only do half a volume because doing the full volume, that was a lot, especially to try to do in one day. And it ended up taking up a lot of space on my computer, especially to do both the uncut version and then to do the edited version for YouTube. It was a lot, and let alone trying to do the Pokemon anime on top of that. As much as I really do want to do the anime, it's just like, nah, I'll have to do that at another time, at another date. So to anyone who was actually looking forward to that, I have to give my sincerest apologies. So, another one bites the dust when it comes to that. But we are definitely continuing on with the manga, and there'll be multiple iterations of me going over the manga throughout the week as per the Patreon's request. And, well, last time, we started the adventure, the journey of Red to become a Pokemon master, trying to have a greater understand of Pokemon in all their forms. He meets with Professor Oak and gets a Pokédex to set out on an amazing journey. But Professor Oak's grandson, Blue, is also given a Pokédex, setting out on the same kind of journey. Along the way, Red, trying to improve himself, battled against Brock and won a Boulder Badge. Same with Blue, and ultimately teamed up with Misty in order to stop Team Rocket and their machinations, growing stronger on top of that, gaining, I actually don't remember what it's called, but the Cerulean City Gym Badge. He met with Bill, and he also battled against Lieutenant Surge aboard the SS Anne, who was smuggling Pokemon. Red has become a force of nature and a great opposition to all those who would do harm to Pokemon across the land. And as his journey continues, it's a question of when is he ultimately gonna meet a wall that he can't surpass? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, this time we'll be going up to chapter 21. So, let's jump into volume 2. Nice little cover that ultimately spoils that Bulbasaur will be evolving, but what can you do? Man, I like seeing him with his Poliwrath. Not my favorite Pokemon, but I do appreciate seeing Red's hustle. Oh, Nidoking? Huh, interesting. Oh, there she is. I've been waiting to see her. A character who was mostly introduced here, who was supposed to be in the original games back in the day, because they wanted you to be able to play both male and female, but they weren't able to get that set into the game before release. It's Green, who was supposed to be the alternate for the player character, who ended up being able to be incorporated later down the line and is now more of a staple too, which I love. I love that stuff. What I would always do was I would usually try to get both versions because I was a greedy little thing. And I would play one version where I played as the male character and another where I played as the female character. Just to kind of mix it up, you know? We pick up at some kind of outpost or viewing center? I'm not really sure what that is. Where we see a young girl just humming to herself. Dum-de-dum-dum. Ah, a visitor. Ooh. As she looks out with binoculars, she spots Red training with his Pokemon. With his Bulbasaur downing a primate? And she snaps saying, "The unsuspecting fool," in chapter 15, War Turtle Wars. I love that. As the primate is down, Bulbasaur starts to tremble as Red questions what's wrong. He opens up his Pokédex as Bulbasaur evolves into an Ivysaur. So not much of a spoiler on the cover since it happens in the first chapter of the volume. And Red cheers. All right. An unknown figure claps behind him. It's none other than Green. As Red turns, questioning who? Red says, ooh, that was awesome. Congratulations to both of you. Red blushes, saying, huh? Oh, thanks. Green says, you must be such a good Pokemon trainer. It was so thrilling to watch you in action. Red blushes even more, saying, well, I do my best. Blue then sighs, saying, it's too bad though. If only you had some Pokemon items. Red questions, items? Blue then Green pulls out a whole bunch of items, which is hilarious considering that later down the line in Pokemon games, items become a big thing there. I keep trying to call her Blue. Another version would call her Blue, but Green pulls out a whole bunch of accessories saying, accessories to make your Pokemon even stronger, like held items and stuff. This power plus enhances attack power, and this item, blah, blah, blah. Red backs away saying, I'm sure they're great, but Green then gives him the puppy dog eyes saying, you don't want my item? Red blushes even more, saying, of course I do, but Green gives him a hug saying, oh, thank you so much. That'll be 6,000 Pokebucks? I actually don't remember what the currency is called. As she gives him a squeeze, as Red walks away with all his new ill-gotten gain. Well, no, he got it through payment. I shouldn't say it like that. He says, wow, she really liked me. I could tell. And she said she's my age. Although his Pokemon walk behind him unconvinced. Red says, got her own business too. She must be really grown up. But Pikachu notices a rustling in the brush as a pincer comes out. As Red says, another one? Now's my chance to try out these items. See, Red gets it. Encounter as many Pokemon as you can and level up your Pokemon. Even if they end up in a fight with a Pokemon that has a type advantage against them at a high enough level, it won't matter. Oh, won't matter too much. Red then says, Pikachu, HP up, which, that's not really going to do anything in the middle of at the start of a battle. And Pikachu even looks back at Red like, what? Red goes, huh? As Pikachu is knocked down by Pinsir using Dig, I think? I can't really tell. It's kind of weird in that panel. Red then says, hold still, you need more items. And Red just outfits Pikachu with all this ridiculous gear and stuff. And that's why you can only have one held item per Pokemon. And Pikachu is then knocked down by the pincer and sent flying. Red says, something tells me I got ripped off. At least you understand. Later, at the Celadon City Pokemon Center, Red hands over his Pikachu to the receptionist saying, full restore, please. That's what most Pokemon Centers do. I don't think I know one that doesn't fully restore your Pokemon. Red then calls up Professor Oak at the PC as he says, hello, Red. Dare I ask how you're doing? Red simply says, oh, just fine, while thinking, I can't tell him I'm such a dope that I got cheated. Oak says, I'd say you're doing fabulously. You've even evolved an Ivysaur. That Bulbasaur was such a shy little thing too. Wonderful, wonderful. And I see that Blue's Charmander is now a Charmeleon. Now, only Squirtle's left. Red questions, Squirtle? Oak explains, the last of the three that my research has been focusing on. But enough about that. And he shows him a diagram of the 3 starter Pokemon, Grass, Water, and Fire. Red thinks, is there a third person doing Professor Oak's quest? Quest. Red asks, Professor, what's Squirtle's trainers like? Oak explains, I don't know. You see, Squirtle was stolen. Red says, stolen? As Red later walks down the street, he says to himself, Pokemon stolen, phony items. How come there are so many bad people in the world? Kid, you're young enough to really start understanding the way of the world. Start while they're young. Get that disappointment as early as possible so you can deal with much more of your life. Well, I'm never going to get ripped off ever. Meanwhile, on the side of the street, you see Green with all of her items laid out on a blanket, talking to a crowd saying, hurry, hurry, step right up. Welcome to the biggest Pokemon item sale ever. Everything must go. Red spots her and says, I was hoping to run into you again. Green panics, saying, uh-oh, I hate repeat customers. And she dashes down the street, being followed by Red, who calls out, stop, thief! As they make their way down, Red screams out, I want my money back! As they pass by a river, keep trying to call her Blue. Green tosses a Pokeball, summoning a Wartortle. And as Red questions she has a Pokemon, Green hops on Wartortle's back and waves with a little handkerchief as she makes her way quickly down the river. Red panics, saying wait, I know. I just captured it, so the level's low, but as he pulls out a Pokeball, he says, here we go, tossing a Pokeball right above Green's head. His Wartortle comes to a sudden stop, and as she ends up hitting the riverside, she questions as she shakes her head, okay, who dumped the mattress on the... And she looks up to see Snorlax? That's actually a good point. I mean, what better Pokemon to block a path? As Red manages to catch up, he says, where's my 6,000 smackers? Blue, I keep trying to call her Blue. Green panics, saying, I'm so sorry. I know they don't work, but I didn't do it for the money. It's just, well... And she hugs him, saying, I really wanted to see you again. Red panics a little bit, not noticing that Green is sticking her tongue out as she hugs him, saying, can you ever forgive me for playing such a mean trick? I wasn't thinking straight, and then she licks her finger and dabs it in her eye, making fake tears, saying, I was just so glad to meet you again. Red blushes, saying, come on, please don't cry. Green then pretends to fake sob, saying, but I've been so bad. But then she suddenly shoves him away, saying, and I'm about to get worse. Wartortle, attack! As Wartortle sends out Bubble Beam? Or is he just using Bubble? It's hard to say. But Red just kind of phases through the attack, much to Green and mine bewilderment. Oh, he was just picked up by Snorlax. As Red says, didn't see that coming. Is he Quicksilver? As Snorlax looms above and gets ready to attack, Red says, you should be more careful before you try to outsmart a trainer with 2 badges. Green gets ready to dash, saying phooey, and Red says, I hope my 6,000 was worth this Mega Punch. Snorlax unleashes a Mega Punch on the ground that opens up a sinkhole right under Green and her Wartortle, and as she plummets, she says, double phooey. Later, we picked up with a knocked out Green and Wartortle. As Red looks over her, he says, she'll wake up soon. Meanwhile, I'll just take my money back. And he grabs the purse around her neck, which reads Green. Red says, so her name's Green. He then uses his Pokédex on the Wartortle, saying, since I just defeated it, might as well get its data. You gotta be kidding. It's an evolved stage of Squirtle? You see, Squirtle was stolen, remembering Professor Oak's words. He says, this one could be... But he takes off, not really finishing his sentence, oddly enough, saying, stay out of trouble now. Although Green shows that she was awake the whole time as she grins a mischievous grin. I didn't realize this was the first introduction. Did I not get this far? I thought I got this far in the manga. We then pick up at the Celadon Hotel, where Red is flinging his jacket around in his hotel room, saying, my trainer badges, they're gone. And we pick back up at the observation deck Green was at previously, saying to her Wartortle, teehee, I could have escaped easily, but when he mentioned those 2 badges, well, there are some things money just can't buy. As she holds up Red's stolen badges. Dang, she's good. Well, bad, but she's good at being bad. We then pick up at the Celadon City Arcade. Oh man, I used to love going to that place. I spent so much time there. Oh, that was the blossoming of a gambling addiction. You know, there are people who say, oh man, those game centers don't help increase a gambling addiction. No, they kind of did for me. Like slight gambling addiction. Just slight. Got me in a little bit of trouble. But inside the Rocket Game Center, we see a bunch of Team Rocket grunts discussing amongst themselves. Still no sign? We were on her tail, but she The other one says, no excuses. He then posts up a picture of Green saying, I want this girl now. And in the back, we see Red in a Team Rocket disguise. I gotta say, in, what was it? Let's Go Pikachu? Where you, in more newer Pokemon games, you're able to get outfits and stuff like that. I always, usually, get an outfit based on the enemy team. When I played Sun and Moon, I got a Team Skull outfit. When I played Let's Go Pikachu, I got a Team Rocket outfit. Shoot, I have a Team Rocket outfit in real life. Well, not an outfit, just a shirt. But I don't know. Some of the enemy teams just have a look that I'm all about. But this is chapter 16, Tauros the Tyrant. We then cut previously to Red searching in the brush, saying, they're gone. I couldn't have dropped them. He then remembers saying, that girl, Green, she must have stolen them. She stole my trainer's badges, and she's gonna regret it. He then pulls out a map saying, it was just yesterday. She couldn't have gotten far. Now, let's see now. He then spots the Rocket grunt saying, hey. And he thinks to himself, they're from Team Rocket. He overhears the grunts talking amongst themselves saying, it always seems like we're just about to nab her. But whenever we start to close in, all we hear is Green was just here, but she's gone now. Red thinks to himself, huh? They're looking for her too? This calls for a new strategy. And Red follows behind as two of them split off in a separate direction. He then calls out to one of them saying, hey mister, want to see something? And he ushers the grunt into the brush and then knocks him out. Man, yeah, I talk about me trying to get a Rocket shirt, but Red's a little bit more aggressive than I am about it. As Red puts on the grunt shirt, he says to himself, now to sneak into Team Rocket's hideout and find out what they know. Meanwhile, back at the Rocket Game Center in present day, the grunt leader says, a unit cover point 16 east. Oh, a unit cover point 16 east. B unit patrol point 2 west. C unit into the laboratory. The unit that Red is a part of. The grunt then lifts up a poster, classic, and presses a button that reveals a secret staircase. Oh, we're seeing this already. As we see a laboratory that Red descends into with the other grunts, thinking to himself, what the? As he sees none other than Mewtwo being created in a vat. Red thinks to himself, is that a Pokemon? Is that Blaine? I think that's Blaine, yeah. Blaine is talking to a Rocket grunt, saying, as you can see, we are creating Mewtwo from the Mew cell you recovered. Unfortunately, that single cell lacks the genetic DNA to create a complete bot. The grunt says, but if we capture and bring you the original Mew, Blaine questions, is that possible? With the grunt slamming on the table saying, that's why we want that girl. Our only hope of capturing Mew is to get back the disc she stole. Yeah, wasn't there some kind of disc with Mew data on it? Also, it's so wild to see a floppy disk. Oh man, I remember when floppy disks were like the big thing. Now, you can barely hold anything on a floppy disk nowadays. Red thinks to himself, all of a sudden I don't totally hate Green. But what's this Mew they keep talking about? Yeah, he didn't know the name of the Pokemon he encountered. Suddenly, in the laboratory, there's an alert that comes through saying, all troops assemble at point 16 east. The thief has been sighted. Repeat, all troops to point 16 east. And the grunts and Red dash off. Later, at point 16 east, we pick up with Green being surrounded by Rocket grunts. As she says, all this fuss to catch one little girl. You boys must have run out of evil deeds on your to-do list. Red amongst the groups thinks, that's her. The grunt leader says, save the witticisms. You know what we want. Green then brandishes the disc saying, you mean this silly thing? I guess I could give it to you, except I want to catch that cute little Mew for her myself. As she throws the disc up and War Turtle grabs it in its mouth. Red thinks, what? Well, the grunt leader says, you'll damage that disc. Green says, nope, you will if you attack me. But if you want to risk it, Go right ahead. The grunt leader says, oh yeah? Machamp, go, but spare that disc. And Machamp and Hitmonlee go in on the attack. Red thinks, look out, as Machamp tries to strike at Wartortle but manages to evade. The Hitmonlee tries to go in as well with a kick, but Wartortle evades too, causing the two Pokemon to strike each other. Green laughs to herself. Oh, you're so cute when you try to pull your punches. Tee-hee-hee. We then see that the badges she stole from Red, she's wearing as earrings. This girl is fabulous, saying, you gotta be more careful before you try to outsmart a trainer with 2 badges. Red says, first she steals my badges and now my lines. Oh, that's right, he did say that previously. The Rocket Grunt leader says, I'm too old for this nonsense. You'll find that this Pokemon has a very special attack, as he brings out a Tauros. Taurus's tail start to whip as he says, ha ha ha, this Tauros was once called the king of the Safari Zone. Suddenly, the downed, I had to remember what the name was, Machamp and Hitmonlee rise, as the grunt leader says, it's the leader of the herd that has the power to control other Pokemon with a swish of its tail. And we see said swishing of the tail. Now, Green is confronted by Machamp, Hitmonlee, Graveler, and Geodude, who all go in on the attack. As Green says, ooh, quick! Machamp and Hitmonlee go in for the strike on Wartortle, which causes it to barf out the disc. The grunt leader catches it, saying, yes, the disc is ours. Let's finish off this little brat. Tauros attacks! And Tauros goes stampeding in. Green panics, saying, ooh, switch! As she brings out Ditto. Red questions, what is that? Oh, and suddenly Green is backed into a corner next to a cliff, and as she's confronted by the horde of rocket grunts and the Tauros, the grunt leader says, I'll tell you what it is. Something about to go splat, that's what. Ha 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 ha. The Tauros goes charging in, and Red calls out, look out! As Green just stands there like a deer in the headlight. Red man dives in, pushing her to the side, as Tauros goes plummeting off the cliff side. Green spots Red, saying, oh, it's you. You came to rescue me, my hero. An angry Red says, I don't suppose you happen to notice that your Pokemon just fell off that cliff. Yeah, I couldn't tell if that was what happened. But suddenly Tauros comes clomping up the side of the cliff as the grunt leader says, you think a little drop like that will stop Tauros? I'll scrape up your Pokemon later. Are you ready to give yourself up? But as Tauros comes up next to the grunt leader, he notices that the Tauros's tail is swishing. He questions, what? As suddenly the other Pokemon start rampaging against the grunts. Red is shocked as Machamp starts to beat on one grunt while Graveler and Geodude slam on the others, with the grunt saying, I thought these were our. Ugh. Green grabs Red's hand saying, come on. With Red questioning, huh? The grunt leader who has been down says, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to capture her. Green turns to the leader saying, hee, I hate to break it to you, but this naughty little Rocketeer is my sweetheart in disguise. She just strips Red off his clothes, which I guess he was wearing his other clothes underneath, as the grunt leader is kicked in the face by Hitmonlee. Green says, have fun now, toodaloo, as she pushes Red off, as Red says, hey, hold on a minute. Suddenly, Jigglypuff? Oh, and she uses Jigglypuff as a balloon to float away with Red under her arm, saying, isn't Jigglypuff cute? And as Tauros bowls over the grunts as Red watches, he notices it start to reform into the Ditto. Red says, you mean it was that thing all along? Green says, yep, that's my Ditto. She then recalls Ditto with the Pokeball, saying Ditto can change into any Pokemon there is. As the grunt leader growls in anger amongst his other dead well, I don't think they're dead, knocked out cohort. He says to himself, those little brats. Who cares? All that matters is that we got the disc back. Yeah, I kind of doubted it was the actual one, as we cut to the next scene. As they're lurking outside the Rocket Game Corner, Red says to Green, there it is, I hope you're happy. Barely got away from him with our lives, and the next thing you know, she's making me lead her right to their lair. Green says, will you be quiet? Though Red says, of course they aren't after us anymore now that they've got their disc back. Green pulls out the disc saying, "They're what back?" Much to Red's panic, as Green says, "After all the trouble I went through to get this, you think I'd give it away?" Red is dumbstruck as Green explains, "I gave them a fake one, teehee, and this one is going to help me catch the cutest little Pokemon of all." Red says, "You mean Mew?" Next, chapter 17, the Jinx Jinx. Okay, I don't know how she's showing this to Red, but she shows off an image of Mew saying, "There it is." Red sees this saying, "I remember. So that was Mew." Oh, okay. Green says this one's just Ditto doing a Mew impression, but you can tell it apart from the real thing, can't you? She sends out Mew saying, "Now go full Team Rocket one more time, okay?" Red questions, "Hey, what are you doing?" Green explains, "While I track down the real Mew, Ditto will keep that silly Team Rocket company." She then leans in on Red saying, "Oh, and remember, they think you and I are partners now, so you have to help me with this." Red has no response. Meanwhile, in the command center beneath the arcade, the grunt leader says, "No, no, no, this disc is a fake. Those kids, those rotten kids, they'll pay. We have to have the real disc to capture Mew. Find those thieves by any means necessary." He then sees on the monitor something rustling in the brush saying, "Huh? What? It's Mew! Mew! Here? All the units proceed outside to the building grounds and capture Mew." He sends out the rocket grunt, and they all bound after the disguised Ditto, saying, "Don't let it get away!" As Red and Green watch from the tall grass, Red says, "Think Ditto can keep them fooled?" Green says, "Oh sure, until they figure out that Ditto has no idea what Mew's powers are." Red falls out from the comment, but as Green then pulls out a device, Red questions, "What's that?" Green says, "I call it the Mew View. Psychic Pokemon emit special brainwave patterns that when they use psychokinesis, and each Pokemon's pattern is unique. So by keying the disc to Mew's psychic patterns, I should be able to zero in on," and as she puts on the goggles, or isn't that? Yeah, it's the Sylph Scope. I'm like, wait a minute. I feel like I know what that is. It's the Sylph Scope. Yeah, it was in Pokemon Origins that I remember seeing it. That's so cool. And she puts on the Sylph Scope. She says, "Yep, psychic activity in the southeast. We'll be there before Team Rocket finishes playing catch, the bouncing Ditto." As they make their way out to a field, Green continues to use the Sylph Scope saying, "It should be right around here." So Red just kind of sits down saying, I saw something strange at Team Rocket's hideout. They're trying to use Mew to create some kind of monster Pokemon." Green says, Red then questions, "So why are you looking for Mew?" Green says, "Isn't it obvious? For the money." Red says, "Money?" Green leans in saying, "Do you have any idea how many different types of Pokemon have been discovered?" Red says, "What kind of a trainer do you think I am? There are 150 Pokemon known to..." Green says, "Wrong." See? Ooh, he already knew. "Nah, this is too much of a lucrative franchise, baby." She explains, "Mew is the Phantom 151st Pokemon. A Pokemon undocumented, uncaught, and almost unknown. All the Pokemon breeders in the world are dying to get their hands on it." When did Brock start saying he wanted to be a Pokemon breeder? Was that in the early stages? Man, this is why I wanted to watch the anime too. Well. Green says, "Just imagine how much they'd be willing to pay for it. Teehee." Red says, "Unbelievable." He then pouts saying, "A bunch of evildoers are using it to create an evil bioweapon, and you're trying to sell it as a pet." But suddenly something goes past them, and Green uses a Sylph Scope, saying some kind of energy. As it whooshes around them, Red questions, "Hey, what's going on?" Well, Green says, "Shut up, will ya?" Red says, "But this wind, it's like..." Green says, "That wind, this is a disturbance in the atmosphere due to psychokinesis." He then points out, "There, Mew, quick, it's going under that nearby truck." Bonus points if you know what that's a reference to. Red says, "Wow, the 151st Pokemon." Green says, "Oh, get over it already and catch that thing." Red brings out his Ivysaur, while Green brings out her War Turtle. Red says, "It's Fash," as they watch the whooshing Mew. Red says, "My Ivysaur's Vine Whip is perfect for catching high-speed Pokemon, except I can't see the target." Green says, "I know. War Turtle, Hydro Pump. And as several jets of water burst from the ground, Green says, now we can see it coming. Red says, there. Ivysaur, Vine Whip, and they managed to catch the Mew out of the air. As Green says, you got it! But suddenly there's a loud sound behind them, and they narrowly avoid being hit by a massive rock. As we see up on the cliffside, the rocket grunts, with a Jinx holding Ditto. As the grunt leader calls out, did you really imagine you could get away with it? As Ditto is thrown before them, Green says, uh-oh, looks like they caught on. The grunt leader says, Jinx, psychic attack. And as the attack is unleashed, Green calls out, Mew's about to escape. Red gets in the way, saying, I'll keep these guys occupied. You take Mew and get out of here. Green, reeling from the attack, says, really? Red says if Mew ends up in their evil hands, as he's hit by another blast from Jinx, he manages to withstand it, saying, they'll be able to finish that monster Pokemon of theirs. Now go. Green tries to take off, saying, okay. The grunt leader says, I don't think so. Jinx? Psywave. And as the two kids are hit by the attack, they reel in pain. Green saying, my head. Meanwhile, Ivysaur's vine snaps as Mew hurtles through the air. Red says, oh no, Mew. And the grunt leader goes chasing, saying, it's mine. Ugh, freaky. Jinx goes leaping towards the Mew as the grunt leader says, now Mewtwo will be complete and will have the power to destroy anyone and anything in our path. Red manages to recover long enough to toss up a Pokewall, saying, Poliwrath, go! Poliwrath jumps into action, managing to stop Jinx from grabbing Mew, clashing with the Jinx. Unfortunately, he's instantly frozen solid as Red cries out, no! But Mew manages to free itself from the vine still wrapped around its body. An angry Mew then lets off a massive shine as the grunt leader says, no, Jinx, catch it! But as Jinx turns their attention to the two of them, Red and Green look on perplexed as the grunt leader and Jinx are frozen solid and then fall to the ground. Mew then locks eyes with Red and Green and then disappears into the sky. Green says, Mew, it's gone, as she slumps to the ground. Red moves in saying, hey, look on the bright side. At least Team Rocket didn't get it, right? But as it seems like Green is crying at first, he then pulls out a camera saying, at least I'll make a few bucks off the first ever photos of the Phantom Pokemon. Red is shocked, saying, hey, when did you? Don't tell me while I was fighting for my life you were. The Green then grabs onto her Jigglypuff that inflates and floats her through the air, saying, toodaloo, I'm off to the papers. Red screams out she got away again. But as he puts in his hands in his pockets to walk away, he then pulls out his badges and a note saying, thanks for everything, sweetie pie. Red then looks back up at Green still floating away, saying, well, what do you know? As Green calls out, bye-bye. What a wild thing. This is probably my favorite chapter so far. We then pick back up at the game center, where Blue is carrying a whole bunch of coins. As people watch, mystified. Oh geez, he's got even more at the side there. Green then rolls up to the exchange desk and hands the coins off, saying, I'd like to exchange this for a prize. The receptionist says, sure thing. Is this the first Pokemon you've won at a game center? As he hands over a Pokeball, Blue says, oh no, the receptionist says it's not the same as raising one you caught yourself. They're awfully hard to train. In Chapter 18, A Tale of Ninetales, we then cut to the outskirts of Celadon City, where Red is walking off saying, I gotta get out of this nasty city and now. But then he hears someone call out, hold it. Red turns saying, what? As a Porygon goes dashing past him. Red then turns saying, who's there? As he's knocked into by someone, Red says, hey, what do you think you're? As he locks eyes with Blue, Red says, so that's your Pokemon? Blue says, Porygon, return. Red says, you got a Porygon? Aren't those incredibly rare? Where'd you get it? Blue says, from an arcade machine. We see the angry little thing in his Pokeball. Blue says, they warned me it would be hard to control because I didn't catch it myself, but this is ridiculous. I can hardly use it. See you around, unfortunately, as he picks up several Pokeballs. Oh, Oh, I heard about something like this, but is this when it happened? I'll talk about it once I see further down the line. Red says, hey, wait up. I want to hear more about the Blue's already walking off saying, sorry, but I got things to do, places to be. Red scratches his head saying, boy, he's as friendly as ever. Oh well. But suddenly there's a shriek off in the distance as two young girls are being chased by a Marowak, a Rhyhorn, or Rhydon, and a Graveler. Red calls out, wow, Pokemon. All right, a chance to be the hero. At least he's honest. He says, Pikachu, I choose you. As he pulls out Charmeleon? Much to Red's mystification. Yeah, okay. When all those Pokeballs were knocked out, Red and Blue kind of switched around their Pokemon. Yeah, I was kind of waiting for that to happen because I knew that the main characters had their Pokemons kind of shuffled around a little bit. I actually don't know how long Red holds on to it for, though. Because I know they ultimately trade them back. Because I always associate which Pokemon with the various colors. So in my head, it's just like, no, Red should have the Charizard, Blue should have the Blastoise, and Green should have the Ivysaur or the Venusaur. But it don't work out like that. But suddenly, the Rhydon and the Marowak bear down on Red as Red steps between the girls and the Pokemon. As the girls say, stop them, stop them. As Red says, I'm working on it. He says, okay, let's pull out all the stops. And he pulls out all of the Pokemon. A Golduck, a Machoke, a Pidgeotto, and a Scyther. Red says, huh? What's going on? These aren't my Pokemon. And the girls say, you must be Blue. You're famous. Red says, but blah. The girls say, you've got a Charmeleon, a Golduck, and a Pokedex. You must be him. We heard there was a famous trainer in the area, but we never dreamed we actually get to meet him. It then says, of course, you're not as good looking as they say, which, ouch. Red tries to say, wait a second, I'm not. But the girls push him forward saying, come on, Blue. Hurry up and show us your battle skills. Here they come. As the Pokemon charge in, Red says, fine, watch this. Charmeleon, flamethrower. But Charmeleon does nothing, much to Red's bewilderment, as he proceeds to be trampled by the Pokemon. Red, wounded in both pride and body, walks off remembering the girls calling out, you're a fake, and mocking him as he says to himself, shoot, I would have won easily if I had my own Pokemon. I still can't believe all my Pokemon got switched with Blue's. As all of Blue's Pokemon look at Red with disdain, he accesses his Pokedex saying Charmeleon, Golduck, Scyther, Pidgeot, oh, it was a Pidgeot, Machoke, Porygon, don't know how to use any of them. This can't be good. He tries to pet Charmeleon, but Charmeleon goes for a bite as Red pulls back, saying, can't we be friends? But Charmeleon turns away. We then see the Pokemon jogging, as Red says, I don't believe it. They're exercising on their own. Blue sure has these guys well trained. Unfortunately, they won't listen to anybody except their own trainer. Unless he calls out, stop, stop, stop. You can do your training in battle. Let's go swimming. As he pulls off his clothes and jumps in the water, saying, come on, guys, the water's fine. Jump in, jump in. Charmeleon and Pidgeot look at each other. We then cut to, as for Blue, where he's forcing Red's Pokemon to jog. Blue says to himself, until I get my own Pokemon back from Red, I'll just have to make do with these. But first I have to get to know them. It's lucky our Pokédexes got switched too. Oh. This will tell me everything I need to know about my new Pokemon. So I got an Ivysaur in exchange for my Charmeleon. Pikachu, Poliwrath, Ivysaur. I guess I'll train them my way. Then cut to 3 days later. As Red and Blue's Pokemon are sitting around a campfire, he says to them, dinner? Holding out a piece of, food. But they don't even really acknowledge him too much. Red says, I just can't win with these guys. Oh well, at least they don't bite me anymore. After all the Pokemon battles we've had in the last 3 days, all we caught are these two. As we see that Red has caught a Diglett and a Krabby? That's not a Kingler, is it? I think that's a Kingler. Yeah, that's a Krabby. Suddenly, there's something up on the hill. that Red spots saying, isn't that a Ninetales? Is it fighting something? As we see that Blue is battling with Pikachu against the Ninetales, saying, Pikachu, use the trick I taught you. Tail Strike! And Pikachu uses that against the Ninetales. As Blue says, just because you're an electric Pokemon doesn't mean a good trainer can't teach you non-electric attack. Which is true. You know, always diversify your attacks. That way, if you're up against an opponent that can't be harmed by a certain attack, you got something else. He calls out, now finish it, Pikachu. As Pikachu shocks the Ninetales, it tries to go scurrying away. Blue says the Ninetales is getting away, although it's running straight towards Red, who says, not this way, not this. And then Ninetales unleashes a torrent of fire, and Red brings out Machoke. Blue calls out, what are you doing, you idiot? Do you want to kill my Machoke? Red calls out Blue as the Machoke is surrounded by the flames, although Red comes charging in as he points to his gasping Pikachu, saying, who are you calling an idiot? Look at my Pikachu. Blue says, big deal. Just save my Machoke now. Red says, sure, but how? As Machoke is grappling with the Ninetales that is still burning him. But suddenly, Red calls out, it evolved. It's a Machamp. As Machamp manages to pin Ninetales, Blue calls out, now. Red says, got it. Or, I'm not actually sure how this works now. The two reach for the captured Ninetales, as Red says, what are you doing? My Pokeball caught it. Blue says, maybe so, but it was my Machamp who weakened it. Red pulls on the ball, saying, it's mine. While Blue manages to pull it away from Red, saying, sorry. Later, Blue says, that lazy idiot. I trained his Pokemon to be twice the fighters they were, but he didn't do a thing with mine. Although I have to admit, Machoke wasn't able to evolve until Red had him for a while. Oh, wait, does Machoke evolve based on... Can it evolve based on friendship? Oh, it evolves when traded. Oh, that's actually cool to know. Yeah, I don't trade Pokemon. My Pokemon is my Pokemon, not yours. If I have to evolve it by trading, well, I guess it's not going to evolve. I'm going to try to catch that evolution out in the wild then. And if I can't, oh well. Blue says coincidence, I'm sure. But we then see that Blue's Pokemon are a lot more friendly and affectionate. Even the Porygon is snuggling up to Blue as he says, but there is something different about them. Is it that they appreciate Blue? Or is it that they now just have a more friendly demeanor? I'm not sure. Meanwhile, with Red, he says, come on guys, let's go. Let's do a little cycle training. Think you can keep up with me? As he turns to his Pokemon with those intense looks in their eyes, and Red cycles off in a hurry with his Pokemon right behind as he says, help, don't look at me like that, you're scaring me. Blue, what did you do to my Pokemon? Hey, different strokes for different folk. We then cut to the cycling road, which I always loved the bike part in most Pokemon games. I was so glad when they made it a little bit more common. I never played Scarlet and Violet, so I didn't really do the ride Pokemon. Well, I do ride Pokemon, but the specific ride Pokemon for that game. Red is on his bike saying, this is the life. But suddenly he's shocked as a Tangela crosses his path and causes him to crash. He gets up saying, ow, ow, ow. What? Holy, as he spots a crowd of people moving in a line as the Tangela bounces in. In chapter 19, blame it on Eevee. Red goes chasing after the Tangela saying, would it kill you to look where you're going? Only for him to be restrained by two people saying, halt, not a step closer, you. The lady Erica is in there. Oh, Erica's even more highfalutin than I'm used to. Red says, oh yeah? I don't care if it's a princess. I demand an apology. She's in a palanquin? Huh. And she's being treated like an old-fashioned feudal lady, huh? Erica says, we were indeed at fault. Apologize to the young man. And the crowd of people all bow, saying, yes, my lady. A person comes up, pushing down Red, saying, bow when you're apologized to by the daughter of the richest family and gym leader of Celadon City, boy. Erica holds her Tangela, saying, I trust you are uninjured. Angela, my Tangela, was only being mischievous. Red says, never mind about that. Did he say you're a gym leader? Red brandishes his badges, saying, if that's true, then I challenge you. Erica questions, you challenge me? Red says, to a Pokemon battle. Earn these 2 badges by fighting the gym leaders of Pewter and Cerulean City. If you're a gym leader, then I can fight you for a badge too, right? The crowd says, how dare you challenge the Lady Erica? Our lady is weary from her journey. Get him! Get him! And they actually start beating him up. Oh my god. Erica says, stop. I accept his challenge. Red says, you do? As he's been beaten. Erica says, however, I will not sully myself battling opponents of no ability. To prove yourself a foe worthy of me, you must first capture a Pokemon of my choosing. Succeed, and I will battle you. Red says, you got it, lady. Just say the word, which Pokemon will it be? Erica says, Eevee. We then cut to the Route 17 Pokemon Center. As Red says, I can't believe it. Of all the times for Professor Oak to be out, Red's at the computer clacking away, saying, I can't find anything about this Eevee. Today's the deadline, but if I don't even know what it looks like, he panics, saying, nothing. What am I gonna do? Suddenly, a voice calls out, what's eating you, bud? Red stops and says, what's eating you? He then turns to the computer saying, Bill? Bill pops up saying, ain't see you in a Growlithe age, neighbor. What's doing? Next, you have Red meeting up with Bill, which, was he just in the area? How did he know Red was accessing the PC? This is why phones really did come in handy in the games. Or, yeah, the Rotom phones too. As Red meets up with Bill, who's clacking away at his personal laptop, which is wild to see at the given time frame. Red says, thank you for coming. Bill says, oh heck, it's just a hop and a skip on a Pharaoh's back. And what a chore you got, boy. This here Eevee critter is one rare. Oh, there's the little thing. Rare. Jeez, you're making it seem rarer than Mew. Red looks at the laptop saying, so that's an Eevee. As it comes up on the display. Bill says, yep, sad to say, all I know is what it looks like. But that'll help some. We just gotta send this here picture to all the researchers I know, and there's bound to be one who'll say, why, I just seen that little feller at such and such a place. But as they show off the picture to various researchers, they got a lot of shaking heads. We then cut to Celadon City Archery Range, where Erica is practicing her archery. Who would have thought? As someone says, Milady Erica, I have to ask, what are you thinking? The Eevee is one of our project's primary objectives. If your plan is exposed through that child, what is going on here? Erica brings out a vile plume that is putting off some kind of dust. The attendant says, Milady? Erica then calls out attack, which, is that Petal Dance? And attacks her attendant? What the hell is going on here? Oh, the attendant then notices a Drowsy? That's a Drowsy, right? Yeah, Drowsy. That is now riddled with petals and downed. The attendant shrieks as Erica says, it seems you were followed. Be more careful. Erica thinks to herself, we must have that Eevee as soon as possible. The heck? Well, I mean, Eevee has the potential for evolution, so is that it? Bill says later as they're in some other location, well, this here's the place. Red says, in the city? I don't get it. But since we're here, we might as well look around. Bill says, oh, looks like a little more info's trickling down the old Cyber Creek here. Here's a feller says he saw an Eevee breathe fire. Red says, how far did it breathe? Oh my god. Bill says, not fire, fire. You know, crackle, crackle, sizzle, sizzle. Red says, kinda like fire? Bill then brings out some devices saying, this here doodad takes Pokemon energy. And sure enough, betcha we can follow this trail of that flame right to it. There's a powerful Pokemon nearby, as we see a Jolteon overlooking them on the, I don't know, some kind of precipice. Better have a water Pokemon ready. Red says right as it goes for his Krabby. While Bill is still looking around saying, come on out, little Eevee. Eevee bounds past Red as he says, hey, there it goes, there it goes. Bill says, don't be silly. I'm not reading any flame power over that way. Red brings out his Krabby saying, so use your eyes instead of that doodad. Krabby, attack. Only for Jolteon to come out and shock Krabby and down it. Red calls out to his Krabby, oh, Oh, as the Jolteon shifts back into an Eevee. Oh god, that would actually be pretty cool. Bill says, gosh darn it, you're right. But that looks like an electric Pokemon. Red says, then I'd better use a ground Pokemon. As he brings out Diglett. This is like a prototype Silvally. Or type null? Yeah. Red says, go, Diglett! And suddenly, the power shifts to water, as Eevee shifts to a Vaporeon. As Red says, Diglett, dig! Diglett, dig, Diglett, dig, trio, trio, trio. And as Diglett uses dig, Vaporeon jumps in the air and uses a water attack. Surf? Oh no. Hydra pump? No, kinda looks like surf. And washes Diglett away. Bill questions a water attack? Well, Red says, Diglett! Bill says, what's going on here? Red says, something's gotta work. Ivysaur! And the Vaporeon switches to a Flareon. Bill's device reads fire now. As Flareon unleashes a torrent of flames that utterly cooks all of them. And Bill and Red go running off with Ivysaur. Red says, fire? Now? What's next? Bill says, Red, I think I figured it out. First I thought we were getting bad info, but I think the gizmo had gone. Then I thought the gizmo had gone fluey, but I thought wrong both times. Cause this critter is a fire, water, and electric Pokemon all at the same time. They dodge another torrent of flames. As Red says, look out. Bill says, there ain't no way to fight it. Red thinks, there's always a way. Gotta think. He then spots the Flareon and says, the Eevee keeps swiveling its ears like trying to detect something. But what? He turns to Bill's device saying, wait a minute. Every time I attack, it changes into exactly the kind of Pokemon that my Pokemon is weak to. It's sensing the Pokemon's type with its ears. So if we cover up its ears, Red calls out, Ivysaur, Razor Leaf. The Flareon switches back into an Eevee and jumps through the air. Ivysaur then uses, I'm not even sure, a vine to wrap Eevee's ears with the leaves? And Red then says, now, Solar Beam, and manages to down the Eevee. Red says, what the? Something's not right. Bill checks on the Eevee saying, Red, take a look. They notice a chip in its ear saying, this critter weren't born with those powers. Somebody turbocharged it with this here gadget. Red gets angry saying, and then dashes off with the Eevee. Bill saying, hey, where are you going? Red says, I'm gonna find the lady who sent me after this Pokemon. Cause something tells me she knows more than she's letting on. Bill chases after Red as they head to the, oh god, I don't remember what city. I don't remember what city it is. Celadon. There we go. Celadon Gym is now chapter 20. Meanwhile, Vileplume. Red bursts in with Eevee saying, where are you? Come on out, you so-called lady. Bill says, well, I'll be. There ain't nobody here. Red growls saying, let's deal with that lady later. We gotta get Eevee. Oh, Bill says, let's deal with that lady later. We gotta get Eevee to that enhancing gizmo. Red says, right. Red puts Eevee in a Pokeball and looks at it saying, what kind of person would do this to a Pokemon? As Bill looks through something, he spots something that says Eevee Reconstruction. Bill says, what the heck is that? Red then turns saying, who are these people? As Bill flips through the document, he reads off, Eevee is a rare Pokemon possessing the ability to evolve into any of 3 highly distinct advanced Pokemon form. If an Eevee can be reconstructed so that, Red says, so that what? Bill reads off, so that it can transform rapidly between all 3 of those forms. Oh no, it's Erica reading. Then it will serve as a very powerful weapon. Red turns to see Erica and her entourage. As he says, you. Erica says, you actually captured an Eevee. It's most impressive. And she claps. She hands over her badge saying, you challenged me to a Pokemon battle with this gym badge as the prize. You have proved your worthiness. I accept. Red says, cut the lies. This is your reconstructed Eevee. It escaped, so you got me to look for it. And I've got to prove my worth of fighting you? I don't need your stinking badge. Okay, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. Looks like Erica jumps up to a ring or something. She brings out her Pokemon, Tangela, Bellsprout, and Vileplume saying, I am prepared. Unless, of course, you're afraid. Red brings out his Poliwrath Pikachu and Ivysaur. Erica says, 3 versus 3. Perfect. I love a multiple Pokemon battle. She then calls out, Tangela, attack. While Tangela uses a vine whip, Red calls out, Ivysaur, vine whip. And Ivysaur catches Tangela's vine too. Red says, yeah, reel it in. Only for Tangela to do the reeling, tossing Ivysaur about. Red says, oops. Poliwrath, go. Erica says, replacing Pokemon already? Tisk tisk. Well then, we will do the same. As he brings out her Bellsprout, Red thinks, she thinks that little thing can handle Poliwrath. He then orders Poliwrath to use Double Slap on the Bellsprout. Bellsprout's cheeks are inflate, and Red calls out, final attack. Poliwrath goes in for a punch, but Bellsprout manages to catch it. Man, Bellsprout in this series are always so friggin' strong. Didn't Ash have trouble with one during the league championship? Erica calls out, now Bellsprout, mimic. Red questions, mimic? As Bellsprout then uses Double Slap right on back, knocking Poliwrath out. Erica explains, the power to copy an opponent's power for every attack and equal and opposite counterattack. Red says, I'm counting on you, Pikachu. While Erica says, as am I, Vileplume. She then orders Petal Dance, and Pikachu jumps between the petals. Erica says, you saved the best for last. So shall we try this? Sword Dance, which causes Pikachu to be downed as well. Red looks at his Pokédex saying, oh no, it's health. Erica says, where's that haughtiness from before, You certainly fought courageously, young man. You have potential. I invite you to battle me again when you have attained more skill and power. You know, it's funny. I remember losing to Erica too. I don't remember what my team composition was, but I do remember losing to her at one point. And since you've proved yourself by capturing an Eevee, next time I will attach no conditions. Red thanks the Eevee and looks over at the healing center thingy. As Erica says, oh, I see the little one is near its end. An experimental creature's fate is indeed a sad one. Oh, wait, what? Erica jumps from the ring saying, the least I can do is put it out of its misery. Red says, huh? Hey, you can't do that. Erica walks over to the Pokeball with Eevee in it saying, if the Pokeball is open now, it will surely take its last breath. Jeez, Erica is a lot more hardcore than I was expecting. And again, I know that a lot of gym leaders in this series are a little bit intense. Red says, no, you mean you're going to use the poor thing for your horrible experiments, and if it doesn't work out, you're just going to destroy it? That's not right. If I let you get away with this, you'll keep doing it to more Pokemon. He calls out, Pikachu, I choose you. And the Pikachu, smothered in petals, suddenly bursts forth in energy form? I have no idea what I'm looking at. Bill says, what the heck is that? Erica says, so you have one more card to put on the table. Excellent. My victory will be that much sweeter. And the weird apparition of Pikachu goes up against the Vileplume and is utterly shredded. Erica says, you use substitute. Your Pokemon gave a quarter of its maximum health to a double of itself, a last resort doomed to failure. Red says, sorry, lady. Oh, as we see that Pikachu made its way over to the device blocking the path, putting itself between Erica and Eevee. As Red says, and while you and your Vileplume were concentrating on the double, the real Pikachu got to your reconstruction device. I love the Vileplume's shocked face. Oh! Red says, you'll never open that Pokeball. Erica giggles and then pets Pikachu saying, rather than fight, you use the last of your health to defend another Pokemon. How sweet. Red and Bill are stunned. Well, Bill questions, what the? As Erica picks up Pikachu, Red says, eh? Erica then activates the device and says, I have set it to full restoration. The Eevee will be fine. Red questions, but Erica turns to him saying, you are indeed quite a trainer. As rumor has it, Red of Powlett Town. She gives a deep bow saying, my apologies for testing you. Brock and Misty extolled your virtues, but one mustn't believe all that one hears. Yeah, I didn't quite believe that Erica was one of the bad trainers. This Eevee, you see, was an experimental subject for a certain organization. Some months ago, we obtained these reports and learned of the reconstructed Eevee who escaped. Thanks to you, it is now safely in our care. Red says, wait a minute. This organization, Erica says, Team Rocket, and Red comes to that realization. Erica then pins something to Red's shirt saying, to have any hope of defeating them, we must learn about their technology. We need to understand their fighting strength, and most of all, and as she pins the, rainbow badge to Red shirt, I was about to say Ash. We need an ethical trainer who possesses inner strength and compassion. A trainer like Red of Pallet Town. Red says, are you serious? Okay then, I'm in. Erica says, then allow me to present you to the citizens of Celadon City, who are allied with me in the battle against Team Rocket. Wow, whole city. Dang. Man, this really is ramping up the stakes a lot more than the anime. Because if I remember correctly, for Ash, it was mostly just the whole beautification kind of situation, and she just didn't allow men into her gym and stuff. But here we got like this growing opposition, gym leaders on both sides of the whole situation. I think Sabrina is also a villain. So you have Lieutenant Surge, Koga, Sabrina on one side, Erica, Misty, and Brock on another. Oh, and also Giovanni. And shoot, basically making it into the oncoming Pokemon Underground War. Cut to a few days later, where Red says, okay, Eevee, let's go. Oh, so he kept the Eevee. Interesting. Bill calls out, hey Red, won't it be dangerous taking that there Eevee along with you? Red says, why would it be? Bill says, why? The bad guys are looking for it. He'll be a marked man. Heck, even that gym's been attacked by a psychic Pokemon. Who do you think's behind it all? Oh, probably Sabrina. Think what they'll do to little old you. Hey kid, you listening to me? And Red just takes off with Eevee. Just like, Oh, Red, cocky as ever. Oh, and sure enough, what Pokemon is that? Yeah, Kadabra. We see Sabrina in a Team Rocket outfit, floating above, watching Red take off on top of her Kadabra. As she says, so, EVS passed into that boy's hand. Isn't that just perfect? And Kadabra uses teleport as it and Sabrina disappear. Man. We then cut to Fuchsia City, where an announcer calls out, welcome to the Fuchsia City Safari Zone. Also, guys, Jurassic Park is gonna have a lawsuit waiting for you on that one. I'm kidding. It's parody. As Red enters into the Safari Zone, I remember going to the Safari Zone. I'm not a big fan of the Safari Zone. I hate the limitations it gives you on how you play the game. Just let me do my own thing, man. An announcement comes over the intercom saying, this Pokemon viewing tour will give you the opportunity to view wild Pokemon you may never see anywhere else. During the tour, we will retain your personal Pokemon for safekeeping. We, Pidgeybot 1 and Pidgeybot 2, will be your guide. As the little river boat raft thingy takes off with Red on it, the Pidgeybots say, and away we go. Red says, whoa, this is great. Wow, look, a Parasect and an Execute and a Dragonair. The Pidgeybot says, please keep your hands on the safety bars at all times. Red says, right. And chapter 21, long live the Nidoking. Whoa. Suddenly, there's a stomping in the brush as Red says, what's that? The Pidgeybots say, this is your lucky day, sir. Red says, huh? The Pidgeybots say, a battle between two Nidoking. As always, they're battling over a Nidoqueen. Based. The Nidokings battle it out as Red says, hey, this is dangerous. But we cut to meanwhile in the control room. The controllers, monitors, operating team say amongst themselves, no one can say we don't give our guests a thrilling ride. Another person says, are you sure the security system is foolproof? Another says, absolutely. The techno components of the Nava Pidgeybot will protect the customer against every eventuality. The other guy says, excellent. Oh, this is just straight Jurassic Park ripped off. Man, say what you want about the Pokemon anime and a lot of the weird changes the dub made, but even in terms of this, it's just like, you're just parodying Jurassic Park. Like, y'all ain't even fronting about this. As Red watches the two Nidoking duke it out, he goes, whoa, I didn't know Nidoking was so huge. Usually they're not. What a great Pokemon to my Pokédex. Not to mention to my collection, thanks to the Pokeball I smuggled in. He turns away from the Pidgeybot saying, now, while they're not looking, Wait, the Safari Zone was supposed to be about catching wild Pokemon. What? Smuggled in? What? Okay, is there some kind of trivia I'm not aware of when it comes to this? Like, no, I'm pretty sure the Safari Zone was about catching wild Pokemon. Whatever. The Nidoking that he was aiming for manages to dodge out of the way as Red says, I missed. But the Pokeball gets to the Nidoqueen and, Red captures it. In the Pokeball, the ball rolls towards Red as the two Nidoking watch and the Pidgeybot freaks out. As the Nidoking charges at Red, he says, I better get out of here fast. But before he can react, the Nidoking just smashes the Wrath and Red goes into the water. As Red washes up on the shore shortly later, he comes to as the Pidgeybot says, all right, now you've done it. Red says, sorry, as he gets up. The Pidgeybot says, see what happens when you break the rules? Now we'll have to walk to the exit. Is this Pidgeybot sentient? Red says, you're kidding. Walk? As they make their way through the Safari Zone, Red says, shouldn't we just wait for a rescue team? The Pidgeybot says, great idea, except those two Nidoking are on their way here to get you for stealing the Nidoqueen that we're fighting over. Red gulps hard. The Pidgeybot brings out a Pokeball saying your best bet is to use one of our Safari Balls. Yeah, there you go. They're the only ones that can capture a Pokemon within the Safari Zone. Red says, but my ball caught the Nidoqueen. The Pidgeybot says, yeah, through dumb luck. Red fumbles over as the Pidgeybot says, I'm sure you know that the wild Pokemon here are very wild. As the Nidoking comes out of the brush, looming over Red and the Pidgeybot, as Red brandishes the Safari Ball saying, it's here. Red throws the ball saying, take that. It knocked it away. The Pidgeybot says, don't throw at random, idiot. We're wasting our precious balls. Red says, what am I supposed to do? The Pidgeybot says, how would I know? Red says, thanks heaps. Thanks, that helps. As they both run away from the Nidoking. Red dodges out of the Nidoking's attack as the Pidgeybot says, didn't we mention that Nidoking's claws contain a powerful acid? Wait, what? Since when? As the ground that Nidoking strikes starts to melt, Red says, so I noticed. I've got to find a way to weaken it somehow. Red takes a rock. Oh yeah, you gotta throw rocks. And says, well, here goes nothing. He tosses the rock at Nidoking and it hits the Nidoking square in the face. Red looks on, thinking, did I do it? And as the Nidoking bleeds from its wound, it chases down Red, even more angry than before. As Red says, yeah, I've made it even madder. Meanwhile, back in the control room, the monitoring team looks at the offline monitors saying, can we get through yet? Another says, no, sir. One of the people say to Pikachu, Red's Pikachu, don't worry, I'm sure your training is just. But another person comes up saying, sir, we recovered part of the damaged Pidgeybot. The man in charge says it's number 2, which means number 1 is still with our guest. I hope. Pikachu and Ivysaur look at each other with concern. As Red is still chased down by the Nidoking, he says, how can something so big move so fast? It's gaining on me. It's no use. As he dodges Nidoking's multiple strike, that is, until he splashed with some of the venom on his shin. Red cries out in pain as Nidoking bears down on him with his claws, only for the Pidgeybot to sacrifice itself, taking the hit for Red. He says, no. Oh, are you okay? As he continues to do his best to dodge the Nidoking strike, he thinks to himself, this is no good. If I go to the Pidgeybot now, it'll know I'll only make things worse. This is all my fault. I've got to do something. He calls out, hey you, I'm over here. As he leads the Nidoking away from the Pidgeybot, he finds himself on a small cliff overlooking the river saying, what, a dead end? As he turns back to the Nidoking, he says, okay, take that. As he chucks a rocket to the Nidoking's eye, Red then runs over to the Pidgeybot saying, you saved me. The Pidgeybot says, shut up and just get out of here. Red says, right, as he grabs the Pidgeybot and takes off, as the Nidoking glares at Red with the piece of rock lodged in his eye. Jeebus, so hardcore. The Pidgeybot says, do you understand now? This is the Safari Zone. You got lucky this time, as we see Red's injured leg as he limps down. As the Pidgeybot says, but that Nidoking has marked you as its enemy. Red looks solemnly at the Pidgeybot saying, thanks for bailing me out. Your wing doesn't it hurt? The Pidgeybot says, I'm a robot. I'm programmed to ensure that our guests reach their exit safely. As he turns away from Red like a tsundere, it says, it's your own safety you should be worried about. As Red limps off, he says, this is nothing, I'm fine. The Pidgeybot says, we have to hurry. From here on, the zone becomes even more dangerous. We need a strategy. Red questions, what do you mean? The Pidgeybot says, stupid brute force won't see us through anymore. Red gets mad saying, what do you mean, but he doesn't notice a vine closing in on him as he's snatched up by a victory bell and flung into the air. The Pidgeybot says, it's a victory bell. Get out quickly. If you're swallowed, you'll be digested instantly. But as Red is wrapped up by the victory bell, he says, okay, but how? And as he's almost taken into the victory bell's mouth, he calls out, help! And then he's consumed. Oh, jeez. And if this was the animated version, James would have died a grisly death a long time ago. As the surveillance team makes their way through the Safari Zone with Red's Pokemon, the leader says, still no signal of him? The other says, no, sir, and no word from the main gate. The leader says, then all we can do is pray he is safe. As Pikachu hears this, he cries out, Pikachu, which translates to, where are you? Meanwhile, the victory bell makes his way off, leaving behind nothing more than Red's hat. Jeez, that's where I'm ending off. Well, dang. Shoot, in all the excitement, I forgot to put up some of my other favorite Pokemon, which would have been, well, I don't know if it counts, but Jolteon, right over here. I'm pretty sure we saw Scyther, who was, I believe, one of Blue's Pokemon, and then we had also seen Mewtwo. Probably, naturally, my favorite legendary of the generation, which, I mean, such a simple thing to say. I remember going to the movies and watching the first movie, which was a really fun time. But yeah, oh man, it was great to see the introduction of Blue. The little switcheroo they had with their Pokemon was cool, but I'm glad nothing more interesting came of that. I'm glad that they incorporated the fact that for Machoke to evolve into Machamp needing to be traded, that ended up being, you know, a bit of a plot point. Although, was that always the case, or did it just actually accidentally end up being a happy coincidence? Let me know in the comments. But I love that we're building up to this all-out battle between Team Rocket and the various gym leaders in the Kanto region. It's a very interesting way of going about things, and kind of makes me wish that the Pokemon anime had done something similar. The anime had its own overarching stories from time to time, but they never do anything that deep with a lot of the gym leaders. Usually it's the Elite Four that get in charge of like the enforcement part of things, but you know, this is a very interesting way of going about things. And I have vague memories about some involvement of the Elite Four, but I can't remember if they were heroes or villains, so time will tell. But I look forward to more of seeing more of Green. Blue and his rivalry with Red has been great, and there's also Red's inconsistency when it comes to his character, because sometimes he's a good kid, sometimes he's a little brat. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.